Okay, guys, last two problems on the 3C notes. So we're on page 63. And grab my instrument here. I'm going to go over here and write this over here because I need just a little bit more room. These are kind of some special examples that I want to point out what can happen when you're doing absolute value of inequalities. If we just look at this, we see a greater than sign, and it would seem like, of course, greater than, if we have the land of Gore, greater than goes with the or. But watch what happens. That's not really going to be the case here, because you really don't want to make the determination whether you've got a less than or a greater than until you've got this absolute value isolated. So we're going to move along here, subtract 7 from both sides, minus 2, greater than minus 6, divide by negative 2, and look what happens. We've got to flip the sign because we've divided by a negative number and we have an inequality. That's our rule. So now we've got our absolute value isolated and we've got it less than 3, and now we look, we've got a less than symbol. So now it's an and, because less than is an and. So don't make the mistake of making your decision up here at the beginning of the problem. So if this is an and, it becomes a compound, and we can write it one compound inequality, and we can write it x minus 5 is less than the positive value and greater than the negative value. Add 5 to all three terms, and we end up with 2 is less than x is less than 8. And of course we can graph that easily on a graph. Our target numbers are 2 and 8, and all of our points are in between those two. That is an and type graph. Let's look at the next example. It's going to really turn out to be much like the other one. We're going to isolate the variable. It looks like we've got a less than, which would be an and situation, but watch what happens when we get this absolute value isolated. Subtract 5 from both sides. Don't forget about this negative sign. Negative absolute value of x less than negative 2. We have to get a positive absolute value of x. So we divide by negative 1, and the sign flips. There we go. So we end up with the absolute value of x greater than a positive 2. Now we have a greater than, and greater than is an or situation. So when we go to graph it, we want x is greater than the positive value, or x is less than the negative value. And that creates our graph going in opposite directions, looking like this. Here's our negative 2, here's our positive 2, and we want all the numbers going in opposite directions off of both of those. So that's our graph for that one. This was kind of just a little special example. I actually think there was one of these on either page 60, let me see if I can find it, page, I don't have it in front of me right now, but I think we might have done one sort of like this in some of the problems we've already worked. But this concludes all of the information on the practice on 3C, and we're going to come back together, talk about it some more, and answer any questions you might have. Thanks for listening.